Recent headlines are a reminder that the fate of pensions funds is inextricably linked to corporate events, some of which can be devastating. Stress testing for this kind of risk is the speciality of Penfida, a firm with an extraordinary track record when it comes to extreme corporate adventures. Nick Thatcher was up before dawn for this report.
While much of London was still sleeping, Arabella Slinger was putting in the hours training for the adventure of a lifetime.
When I was preparing to go to Antarctica, this was my journey into work. I dragged tyres behind me to make sure that in time I was going to be fit enough and strong enough to tackle the journey on the ice.
So what does all this training have to do with pension trustees and their schemes? Well, Penfida suggests that the level of forethought that trustees should apply in preparing for corporate event risk is no less than the preparation required for the successful completion of feats of adventure and physical endurance.
Moving on, I think we'll then need to look at the industry and the competitive position of the sponsor in the industry.
And in Arabella's day job, where she supports and advises pension fund trustees in how they best manage risk, she recognises the value of good preparation, contingency planning and communication.
When you come back and you reflect on it, you actually see that the parallels between going on an adventure and undertaking an expedition like that and your corporate life are exactly the same. I put in the same diligence and the same effort in terms of looking after my clients' interests and assessing the risks that they're facing that I did in assessing the risks for Antarctica.
Corporate risk events in a pension fund sponsor company, be they closures, mergers, takeovers or refinancing, are likely to have some implications for a defined benefit pension fund.
Well, what we say is that trustees who are properly prepared are in the best place to respond to situations as they occur. So the first thing is to start and understand where you sit in terms of the status quo, and the second then is to understand the scenarios that may occur and how you would respond to those. Having got to that point, you can then understand what mitigation might be appropriate, and finally, of course, in the event that something does happen, negotiating and enacting those plans.
Steel is an industry which once again is undergoing changes in its ownership and structure. But the trustees of its pension fund have worked closely with Penfida in the past to manage corporate risk events. And its chairman told me they're in a much stronger position as a result.
We've had several corporate events. We had the takeover and we've had 2 lots of refinancing. And each time I've worked with Penfida in order to make sure that what we were looking for was achievable and negotiable and right. There are several things that we have in our security package we wouldn't have had if we hadn't had Penfida alongside us.
Working with companies across different sectors, Penfida has advised on more than 40 major corporate transactions over the past 10 years. Last year alone, it acted on £90 billion worth of corporate transactions on behalf of its clients. And today, Penfida advises on more than 80 major pension schemes, which together look after more than £230 billion worth of assets.
You wouldn't go into the Antarctic without taking expert advice and probably taking a guide. Here we are, we've been in the corporate finance world for some of us for 3 decades. We've been in Penfida for 1 decade. We have a lot of experience to bring to the table. And we think that trustees should be looking for experienced guides to try to help them to make the best of these corporate scenarios that present themselves.
Arabella is already planning a second trip to the South Pole, this time by another route. But once again, she knows it will be the preparation and planning she puts in now that will help mitigate risk and achieve her goals in the challenge to come.